There's a lot of things that people do to sabotage relationships that they don't even know they're doing, and it causes them to go through the same cycle over and over again. So here are 5 things that I see people doing to sabotage their relationships, and some of the things you could do to stop it. One of the first things that people do to sabotage a relationship is doing too much. Doing too much is when you do things that you are not comfortable with. Things that you will not feel good about unless you get a certain result. So if you know good and well, when you make a meal for somebody, you're going to feel played unless you get a wedding ring, then don't cook. Let the relationship go along far enough to where you're comfortable cooking. If you know good and well that when you sleep with somebody, you're going to feel uncomfortable and you're going to be mad if you don't get married or they don't move in with you or the relationship doesn't last 10 years, then don't sleep with somebody right away. If you know good and well that if you buy a Christmas present or birthday present or something of that nature, you're going to feel bad if y'all don't get married and last for 50 years, then don't buy it. When you do too much, you put yourself in a situation where now you're on edge. Now you feel like it has to work out or you got played. Now you're angry most of the time, you're frustrated, and everything is just too serious for you. And that often causes the relationship to fold because you're just too on edge, you're just too angry, you get on that emotional roller coaster, and you kind of mess things up. Number 2, faking. A lot of people take an entire relationship and pretend to be somebody that they're not. You start out the relationship acting like you like football, knowing good and well you don't. You don't know the difference between a linebacker and a fullback. I know a lot of y'all like, I still don't. That's what I'm saying. You pretend to be something you're not. You pretend to have different political views. You pretend to like different things. You pretend to do different things. You try to be this totally different person than who you really are because you're trying to attract somebody that's not really in line with your values. A lot of times you see something on TV, you talk to your friends, and you say, this is the person that I should want and want to be with. But they really don't align with your values. You guys really aren't compatible. So what ends up happening is you start having to fake it. You start having to pretend like you like the opera or the ballet, and you really don't. You start having to pretend like you like rap music when you don't. You like country. You got to pretend all of these different things. And when you finally start trying to be yourself, you start realizing that you guys have nothing in common and they don't really like you. It's not their fault that they don't like you. You never showed them the real you. So of course they don't like you. They don't know you. So when you fake it, you put yourself in a position where you build a relationship on this really weak foundation, and all that can happen is it is going to crumble. Number 3, begging. A lot of times this sabotages a relationship. You meet somebody, it's kind of a, on the fence type of thing where you're getting to know each other. And instead of letting things grow organically, you start doing everything in your power to try to get this person to love you, try to get this person to want to be with you, even if they're not showing you that they actually do. So you call them up and they don't answer the phone for 2 or 3 days. Instead of saying, okay, you know what, I'm going to back off of this situation. I'm going to fall back, do me, might holler at somebody else even, whatever the case may be. Nah, you don't do that. You start sending texts. Even if they're angry texts, that's still begging. You're not acting like somebody who has other options. So what you're doing is making the person feel like you're desperate, making the person feel like you don't have anything else going for you. That way they start taking you for granted. So you start seeing this pattern happen in every relationship you get in, and you're not understanding why. When you start out in the beginning of a relationship, or when you're kind of cruising through a relationship, when you start putting in effort that's not being matched, what you're doing is begging. And that's just making the person treat you even worse. If you bought them something for Valentine's Day and they haven't bought you anything in recorded history, why are you still doing that? You're begging for their affection. If you're constantly telling them you love them, you're constantly putting energy into the things that they want and the things that they care about, but they haven't put any energy into you, they haven't come to any of your events, they haven't asked you about your day not once, You're begging this person to love you. That is what sabotages the relationship. Sometimes a person might actually have some interest in you, but they take their time. They take things slowly. And instead of you doing the same and matching that energy, you say, oh, I can't handle them taking it slowly. I can't handle them taking their time. So you go and beg and push the situation so much that it makes them start being uncomfortable with you and feeling like they don't really want to be in a relationship anymore. Now the relationship just goes downhill more and more and more, and you don't know why. Number 4, and this is a big one that a lot of y'all don't really think about: holding back. A lot of people have been in bad relationships, have been in situations where you gave everything you had and it didn't work out. Now you take that and create this philosophy that you won't give anything, or you won't give all that you can to each relationship. Well, I was with the last person and I did everything I could and he still cheated on me. He still ended up dumping me. I was with the last girl, dog. Man, I spent all my money on her. I did everything I could and she left me anyway. So I'm not doing anything for the next person. That is ridiculous. So what if you came to work on time, early even, put all your effort in to your last job and they fired you anyway? Well, what are you going to do? Come to the next job late? Not put the work in? You're going to get fired from that job too. The reality of the situation is you're not hurting anyone else by not giving your all to your next situation. All you're doing is proving the last person right for whatever it is they did to you. You're showing them that they actually made the right decision. You're not helping yourself and you're not helping your case because you're not being real. The reality is, if you really gave everything you could to a relationship and the person didn't reciprocate, didn't appreciate it, took it for granted, they didn't like you, bruh. They never liked you in the first place. That's why they responded to what you did in that way. And you're just not being real with yourself. So now you take a person who actually does like you and you give them less, or in some cases give nothing. If somebody is texting you good morning and you just can't say anything back because you text the last dude back good morning and he cheated on you or he played you or whatever the case may be. Well, now you're making sure that this other person is going to leave. You're making sure that this other person is not going to feel appreciated, and whatever happens from that is going to be the result. You got to understand that just because the last person didn't appreciate you or didn't appreciate what you're doing doesn't mean that the next person won't appreciate it. The thing is, the last person didn't like you, and there was nothing that you could do to make that person like you. You tried, and that was the whole purpose of the things you were doing. But this person actually does like you, or you should leave. This person actually does like you, and you can do things to make that person stop liking you. Now, you might have cooked for the last person and they didn't appreciate it and they dumped you anyway. But this person really likes you already. And if you cook for them, that would just put them over the top. They'd be like, wow, I really, really love this girl. She's the greatest. The last person, you bought them some stuff and they didn't care because they didn't like you. This person does like you. And if you bought some things for them, that would just put them over the top. Oh my God, he really does love me. That's the thing. So you can't take what happened in the past and say, I'm going to hold back on my future relationships, or all you're going to do is ruin them in the long run. Number 5, jealousy. Once again, we go back to past relationships. People get cheated on, people go through different things, and then they decide, this will never happen to me again. So the next relationship they get into, they constantly go, oh, I got to check your phone. I got to check your Facebook. I got to check all your social media. Who you looking at? Why are you looking at that person? Why is that person looking at you? Well, when you act like that, what you're doing is 2 things. Number 1, you're drawing whoever you're jealous of to your level, or you're putting yourself down on their level. What do I mean by that? In order to be jealous of somebody, or in order to feel threatened by somebody, you have to feel like they are close to your level. You can say whatever you want to. You can make up whatever story makes you feel good. But the reality is that in order to feel that way, it has to be that type of a situation. Look at Beyonce and some of the pictures that she might post. There's a bunch of dudes thirsting underneath those pictures. Girl, what I would do to Beyonce, dog. Oh, girl, let me take you out. Yeah, you don't need Jay-Z here. You know, all this kind of stuff. Do you see Jay-Z responding to that? Do you see Jay-Z saying certain things to those people when they say something to his girl? Absolutely not. Why? Because he doesn't feel like they're on his level. And if he said something to them, it makes what they're saying more valid. It makes people believe that it's a possibility. If your homeboy was like, yo, man, I put some smiley faces under Beyonce's picture and told her I want to take her out. Bro, I feel like I got a chance. You would laugh in his face. You'd be like, dude, you are the most delusional guy on the planet. You don't have a chance with Beyonce. Are you stupid? Like, what are you? But what if Jay-Z came back and was like, yo, you better quit hollering at my girl, man. Leave her alone. That's my girl. Now you kind of go, hey, maybe he does have a chance. Seemed ridiculous before. He might even start being like, wow, I didn't really think I had a chance. But now that Jay-Z is all mad, maybe I do. So you draw yourself to that person's level when you get jealous. You're basically telling them that they're on the same level as you, and you're telling your partner that that person's on the same level as you. Also, what you're doing is you're making yourself look like you don't have other options. So you're checking this person's phone, you arguing with them, yelling at them about this, yelling at them about that. So you're cheating on me, I know it. So why don't you leave? If you think I'm this much of a cheater, if you think I'm a hoe and I'm out here messing with all your friends, whatever the case may be, then why are you with me? Why wouldn't you go get somebody else? So what you're telling that person is, I think this about you, but I'm still with you anyway. I think you're constantly cheating on me, which makes me upset and miserable, but I don't have another option so that I can leave. That makes you look pathetic. This is the type of thing that causes a person to feel like they can get away with doing anything to you. You're making yourself look like you don't have other options when you seem like you think something is wrong with your relationship, but you're not really moving on or taking another option. So if you feel like this person is cheating on you and you're upset about it, you're sad, you're angry all the time, what you're telling that person is you can't go anywhere else, because if you could, you would. So you often sabotage a relationship because instead of just taking it for what it is and saying, if the person is cheating, they're cheating, and I'll address that when I find out, and if I need to move on, that's what I'm going to do. Instead of taking it that way, you try to stop it. You try to have, all these different preemptive strikes, which really just make it seem like you don't trust the person. So you think everyone else is on your level. And also, you're not in a position where you can move on, which makes you look pathetic. Now, of course, relationships don't work out sometimes. And it's not about blaming anyone. It's not about saying every relationship you were in the past broke up because of you or it was your fault. It's not about that. I know it's going to be some people to get in the little comment section and go, well, you can't stop somebody from breaking up with you. They either want to be there or they don't. No, people want to break in your house, but you could actually stop people from breaking in your house by having a really, really good security system, by not leaving your doors unlocked, having a neighborhood watch. There's plenty of things you can do to avoid something, even though people want to do that. So there are things that you can do to change your situation. Accepting defeat is just laziness. So at the end of the day, there are things that you can do to change your situation and change your relationships going forward without necessarily blaming yourself for what happened in the past. It's just taking in some things and saying, hey, is this something that I could do better?